So I think the Korean model may have actually been a very successful one. And we should look at Korea and say there was something that Korea did well on the currency. And actually, let's be honest, Korea got lucky. This was a very good piece of luck. And I was very involved with a number of conversations with very senior people, both in the Blue House and government, during the week where the currency collapsed most. And at the time, it certainly didn't feel as if Korea was on track for something good. It felt like a real crisis, and many people in Korea at that point viewed the currency as the ultimate vote of confidence in the country. And when the FT had that full day page, that sinking feeling on the Wednesday, their full one-page thing on Korea, it certainly felt as if we were in a major, major problem. Looking back on it, that was the best week for Korea in terms of the crisis, the weakening of the currency, particularly given the, as Professor Ito mentioned this morning, strengthening the yen at the same time, the yen-won cross rate going from 7.5 to 16 at one point back to 14, really helped the competitiveness of Korean companies against their Japanese peers, and it's been very good. But let's be clear, despite things that people have said afterwards, this was luck. Korea got lucky, and the bad news sometimes when people get lucky is they forget that they got lucky because they were lucky. They think that there was something that was good inherently behind it. And Korea, it was lucky. Korea does have a lot of very good things, which I'll come on and talk about in a minute. But I think it's important to remember that getting lucky, you need to use the opportunity. And I think Korea has used the opportunity in some ways on the luck, but I think Korea has not used the opportunity to take some of the reforms that are going to be necessary to project the country to the next level. And I think Japan hasn't made that opportunity either as much as they need to, so it's not as if the major peers are necessarily doing it, but a crisis can be a good opportunity to do that. And that's about the changes that are required on fertility and the changes that are required on the service economy. There are a bunch of other issues that Korea faces. This whole economic democratization, which I think part of that is an election game going on, but I think part of it is real. I have no worries that Korea can't address that. Korea could cope with unification with North Korea. There are a lot of things that Korea is able to do. But I think the issue on the service economy and the issue of fertility are going to be much harder. And the reason they're going to be much harder is that the root cause behind them actually ties in with why Korea is a success. So let's take the fertility one. And we're doing some research trying to get behind a bit more detail of what's the real cause behind this fertility. But the two big ones behind why Korea has this falling fertility, and Randall showed you the economic impact of this. The two root causes are the work intensity and the educational arms race that Korea's mothers particularly participate in. Now, the work intensity, Randall showed the numbers. I compare McKinsey offices around the world. We are the hardest country in terms of hours here in Korea. Randall's numbers shows this is true for everywhere. That does have a high correlation, at least the stuff we're beginning to see, between low fertility. If people are having to work very, very intensely, there is a lot of evidence beginning to emerge that that's one of the root causes behind that. However, that work intensity is one of the reasons that Korea is successful. Why is it that Samsung Electronics were able to go from being very, very behind in smartphones to now outselling Apple in that short period? Why is it that some of the other great successes in Korea, the shipyards that are able to turn it around, the engineering firms operating in the Middle East, how is it that they're able to do it? It's because the Koreans in the teams that work on those things work very, very intensely, very, very hard. It's the big source of advantage that the country brings. To unpick that and to remove some of that runs the risk of, while it may address the fertility issue, it removes the source of greatness for the country. And I think that's the challenge of how that works through. Similarly, the education arms race. There is an education arms race happening within every Korean family. Every Korean family wants to have better educated children than their next door neighbor or their cousins. They want their children to be better educated than the cousins. I think reforming the night school system may get there, but it's just going to be, like trying to deal with the arms race by saying we're going to cut off chemical warfare. It'll go into nuclear. It'll go into other forms. More goose families. More families where the children are going to be sent abroad to be educated. And that's, I think, again, going to be part of the challenge, because this intensity and belief in education is actually at the heart of Korea's success. So I think reforming the night schools and removing some of that and maybe improving the state education, allowing more private schools will help. But the education arm race will still be there. It will be expensive because people will still pay the most expensive thing, even if it's a matter of sending children to study overseas. And that's going to cause the same issue. So the challenge on fertility, and fertility is the big issue, because if that doesn't get addressed, in the long run, Korea is going to really face a lot of problems. If the fertility issue can't be addressed, it's going to be very hard, but that requires getting at the heart of some of Korea's big successes. If you go to the Middle East, and I was there a few months ago, and I spent some time with Saudi Aramco, the largest company in the world. And when it comes to them talking about a new petrochemicals plant or a new whatever, it's very clear that the only people really they view as serious contenders, or almost the only people, are the Korean engineering firms. Lotte, GS, Samsung. Those are the places that they would go to for their engineering. So Korea already has pockets. I mean, one of the reasons I've stayed in Korea when I was asked to lead the Global Institute is that you've got one of the best airports in the world. And it is a joy flying from here in comparison to flying from Heathrow Terminal 3. It's a very good place to try and fly out of. That is a service industry, and it's very well operated, and Korean Air is very good. So the types of services, and I think this is about an important mindset, is it's not about Goldman Sachs. It's not about restaurants or burger bars. It's actually about the type of services where the capabilities that work within Professor Jung's former colleagues at Samsung apply in manufacturing, or Hyundai apply in their car plants. It's taking those capabilities and applying them to service. It's about service operations rather than classic services. And I think we already have many examples of that in Korea. So to get to the root problems and to address this, and for Korea to have the same level of growth going forward, or the same sort of outperformance in comparison to peers, requires getting back and addressing some things. The service sector, I think, can be addressed, but it's a matter of changing mindset, to understand about service operations and to go after that. But I think more importantly, the longer-term issue on fertility is going to require some quite deep conversations about, can we go after some of these things that have actually made us great and find ways of modifying them, working on work productivity so that we work just as hard but maybe fewer hours, working on immigration and getting more people into the country, but still getting them to fit within our very strong culture, which is how we manage to get things done very effectively here, and get that to happen. And that's going to be quite a challenge. And if we can do that, though, as a country, I think Korea can become a very successful next wave. And there's nothing that I think that I've seen here that could stop Korea going on and, in terms of GDP per capita and those types of measures, becoming at a par with countries like Germany and the United States. Thank you.